The mod support that Grim Dawn offers is something that has me really excited, and I do plan on making a deep dive into the modding community once I've learned the majority of the base game, but right now I'm going to start off with one campaign mod by the name of Nydiamar. This mod does add a new map, but calling it just a map mod is a huge understatement, as it's more of a big expansion that adds new items, quests, areas, and monsters. I'm starting my dive into Grim Dawn mods with this one, as it still keeps most aspects of the vanilla Grim Dawn with its classes and balance, and there's still much more I need to learn about the base game before I get into some of the crazier mods that are out there. This mod does have a lot to offer and can feel like a whole new game, especially with many of the new mechanics, gameplay elements, and options that the mod creator has given us to play with. The installation is a simple file drag and drop into your mods folder in your games directory. You start the mod by changing the main campaign option in the main menu to custom game, selecting Nydiamar, and then Nydiamar map test. You won't have all of your characters from the main game to pick since it does go by different save files dedicated to this mod, but the forum post does have a guide on how you can transfer characters over to this mod. I personally prefer to not transfer characters, as I'd rather experience this campaign as a whole different game, and the pace at which you gain levels, gear, materials, faction points, and so much more is different than the base game here. That's just my personal preference though. You are of course to do whatever you want with your game, so it's great that these options are available to you. Speaking of how you want to play, this mod gives you many starting options. It starts off in a dark void looking area where you walk over to a lectern that gives you two choices, showing regret or not showing regret. Not showing regret is what you'll probably want to pick when you're playing this mod for the gameplay, as it starts you off at level 1 if you don't pick any of the head start options, so you can progress your character as you go through the campaign. In my opinion, leveling your character and feeling it grow more powerful as you go through is a core integral part to any RPG, and this mod even gives you the tools to make it a lot less tedious of a leveling process than the base game anyways. You even have head start options, with the choices that allow you to begin at level 15 or 45 if you don't want to go through the same early game leveling a million times. Picking showing regret will start you off at level 85 or 100 with all of the items, max devotion points, and unlimited iron bits. This is for people who have played through Grim Dawn and this mod many times and don't want to go through the leveling and gearing process to try and cheese and conquer some of the most difficult content that Nydiamar has to offer. I personally don't think I'll ever be picking this option, but like I said, you're free to do whatever you want, and it's cool that the mod developer is giving all of these options to people to play the way that they want to play, because in the end, the game is here to have fun with. The mod creator recommends that you start off with the level 15 head start option, since the very beginning isn't suited for a level 1 character and will be extremely tedious to get through. I learned this the hard way on my first character trying to tough it out, but eventually giving up and going back to make a head start character. Before going into my first thoughts about this mod, I'd like to go over some things that I think are important to make sure everything works for you correctly. The first thing is that there are suggested graphics settings to play this mod on that are shown in the forums, and I'll have a picture of it up on the screen here. These settings are really important since some of the areas will look really messed up and be hard to play in if you have your options set up differently. Another important thing I'd like to mention is that you need to make sure that the Nydiamar campaign map is the first thing you open up per game session, else your world map will be messed up and not allow you to use rift gates. If you do encounter this bug, all you have to do is restart your game and open up the Nydiamar campaign first. Once you pick your option, you'll start off in the Edge of Eternity, which is the hub of this mod where you'll find all of your service NPCs you'll need, and a new very important object called the Electorate of Wisdom. You want to interact with the Electorate of Wisdom as soon as you start, as it'll give you the next option on whether you're beginning a new character, playing a transfer character, or are playing on a new difficulty. The Lectern will also give you a head start option, and the rewards for that if you choose to pick one. You're meant to return to the Lectern every 10 or so levels to collect devotion points, skill points, quest specific rewards, and faction points. This is what the mod uses to replace the quest and devotion shrines from the base game that the mod doesn't currently have. I recommend that you use the iron the mod starts you off with to purchase some items from the merchant, since the beginning parts of the campaign are quite tough for an ungeared character even with all of the skill points that you might have if you pick a head start option. As you're about to go into the rift and begin the campaign, another thing you'll come across is the Electorate of Questing. This is something that the mod has to make the leveling and gearing process less tedious. You'll have the option between 5 different quests that'll reward you with either levels, equipment, or crafting materials. Whether or not you want to use this is your choice, but it's a nice addition to the game to make it a lot less of a chore, especially seeing how there are less options for actual quests in this mod than there are in the base game's campaign that usually help you with XP and items as you go. Also keep in mind that you can only do the leveling quests on normal up to level 60 until it doesn't let you until you're in elite, so it doesn't really make leveling completely obsolete. All of these quests are just killing amount of skeletons, and they are pretty boring and grindy, and it does kind of bug out and spam you with skeletons killed messages every few seconds. I'm hoping that the mod creator plans on changing this soon and it's just a placeholder right now, but it's still better than nothing. You start your journey off in the Tree of Eden and get ambushed by a ton of skeletons upon taking a few steps forward. This mod's campaign doesn't really have a main storyline, but it does have world development through points of interest that tell you about the area, notes on the ground, and characters that give you information through the few quests that exist in this game. I'm not going to go too in depth on the world or narrative since you really should install and play the mod for yourself, but I will say that it's not all that bad. The level design and storytelling through the environment is something that I really enjoyed through this mod. In one of the first areas, moving forward, you'll encounter a big flesh hulk boss that you may be too weak at the moment to fight, but if you keep walking forward to try and skip it, 3 more flesh hulks crawl up from the ground to block your way forward, making the fight even harder for you. If you end up defeating the monsters, you can continue forward to find a blocked path and a locked chest, which is just used for a side quest later. The actual way forward is through a wooden bridge path to the northwest of where the boss was. Just small things like this all throughout the campaign make it feel much more personal and cleverly designed than I expected. There are also custom legendary items all throughout the world that are not only pretty interesting or straight up silly item concepts, but they also tell a story about the surrounding areas that they're found in. There is an item called the Bomber that you find just outside the bandit camp in the Hotten Path, surrounded with a wreckage, dead bodies, and the stick of dynamite that Biergard orders you to get for him for his quest. The item has no stats other than reducing your movement speed by 100%, but it comes with a skill called a fucking huge explosion that just has a huge area of effect and deals a ton of flat damage with a long cooldown. The item has the lore text, requires special ammunition to avoid annihilation of the holder, talk to Biergard. And Biergard can sell you the ammunition to use this for 250k iron each. If you don't have the ammunition and you use this, your character will be insta-killed. Whether or not this item is usable or balanced by any means is besides the point, since the thing that I'm talking about here is how the item is used to tell a story. My mind led to the idea that the dead bodies were either people from the outpost that tried to use the bomber to fight the bandits, or bandits that used the stolen bomber to try and fight off the creatures from the meteor that just dropped right next to their camp. Either way, they didn't have the special ammunition and they ended up killing themselves and leaving an unpassable wreckage before them. This is just one example of storytelling through exceptional level design and item placement. There are many more examples where that came from, but once again I implore you to download this mod and experience it for yourself. Just like the base game, this mod has a few challenge and roguelike dungeons, but they're handled a little bit differently in here. Once you enter these challenge dungeons, the entrance will crumble behind you and not let you back in if you die, but they don't require a skeleton key to enter. The only way to open these entrances back up is to reset the instance, which will in turn reset your progress through the dungeon. The first dungeon introduced to you is the Hotten Mine, and I attempted it while going through the campaign when I was level 20 and not geared at all. It was pretty easy and basically just Cronley's hideout from the main game that rewarded me with a lot of chests at the end and a valuable material chest. I was surprised that I didn't give a new unique reward, but I can tell my expectations are way too high, especially seeing that this mod is incomplete right now, and it's the first challenge dungeon that the game offers to you. The next challenge dungeons were not basic at all though, and very fun experiences. One heavily focused around puzzle solving, another had a mechanic where you had to find heat sources to stop taking cold damage over time, and another was like a whole new endgame mechanic that used aether crystals as a currency to create randomly generated rooms that offer a really high risk for reward type deal. I really recommend playing this mod if for anything just these challenge dungeons, since they are really cool and interesting designs. Overall, this mod is really incomplete at the moment, and the author does have plans on adding a lot more content that looks really interesting. So if you do want to wait until it's more complete to give it a try, I can understand that, but do be sure to go check out his forum post to see what content he plans on adding and what content has been added lately. I completed the main campaign on normal, and I'm about 3/4 through on elite, and ended up just getting super bored, probably going to wait until new content to the mod is added that the mod author is currently working on until I do get back into this. Another big criticism I have, other than it being incomplete, which just can be solved with time, is that the lighting and general environment of some areas made it really hard to see what's going on, in one area making it pretty much impossible to see ground effects. But in the end, it's all very impressive for a one-man creation and really does feel like a whole new expansion that gives you a completely new way to play the game. So I personally am really excited to see this expanded on, and I wish the creator the best of luck with this. He obviously has a lot of passion and a good skill set for level and world design, so I'm sure everything will turn out great, and I'm looking forward to every update from here on out.